Hey, welcome back to Broke No More. Today we're talking about one of the most important numbers in economics, GDP. It sounds boring, it sounds technical, and honestly, it sounds like something that only politicians and economists care about. But here's the truth. GDP affects your job, your salary, the prices you pay, how many businesses are hiring, and whether the economy feels alive or stuck. So if you've ever wondered why the economy feels strong one year and weak the next, GDP is a big part of that story. Let's break it down. GDP stands for Gross Domestic Product. That's just a fancy way of saying the total value of all final goods and services produced inside a country during a specific period of time. In plain English, GDP is how much stuff a country produces and sells. If a country builds houses, makes cars, sells coffee, develops apps, runs hospitals, repairs roads, and serves meals, all of that activity adds to GDP. The more valuable the production, the bigger the GDP. Now the key word here is domestic. That means inside the country. So if a company produces goods in the United States, that counts for US GDP. If production happens somewhere else, it counts for that country instead. And the second key idea is product. GDP counts final products and services, not every tiny step along the way. For example, if a bakery buys flour, then bakes bread, GDP counts the final bread sale, not every ingredient separately. That avoids double counting, so now we know what GDP is. But how do economists actually measure it? They usually use this simple formula: GDP, C plus, I plus, G plus, X M. Don't panic. That looks scary, but it's actually pretty simple. C is consumption. That means what households buy. Things like food, clothes, smartphones, rent, restaurant meals, streaming subscriptions, all of that. In most countries, consumption is the biggest part of GDP. Why? Because people buy a lot of stuff. If people feel confident and spend more, GDP usually goes up. If they stop spending, businesses slow down and GDP can fall. Next is I, which stands for investment. This is not just stock market investing. In GDP, investment means businesses buying things that help them produce more later. That could be machinery, software, factories, trucks, office buildings, or new equipment. It also includes housing construction in many GDP calculations. When a company builds a new factory, that's investment. When a developer builds new apartments, that's investment. When a business buys computers for its workers, that's investment. Investment matters because it helps the economy grow in the future. Next is G, government spending. That includes money the government spends on roads, schools, defense, public services, salaries for public workers, and infrastructure. If the government hires contractors to fix highways, that counts. If it pays teachers, that counts. If it builds a bridge, that counts. But there's an important detail. Transfer payments like unemployment benefits or pensions are not counted directly in GDP, because the government is not buying a new product or service. It's transferring money. Then we get to X minus M. That means exports minus imports. Exports are things a country sells to other countries. Imports are things it buys from other countries. Why subtract imports? Because imported goods are produced somewhere else, so they don't count toward domestic production. If the US buys a phone made abroad, that phone is not US GDP. But if the US sells software, machinery, or airplanes to another country, that's export activity and it adds to GDP. So again, GDP and consumption, plus investment, plus government spending, plus net exports. Now let's make this real. Imagine a country where people are buying more homes, businesses are opening new stores. The government is building roads, and companies are selling more abroad. That country's GDP is likely growing, and when GDP grows, the economy usually feels healthier. More production means more jobs mean more income means more spending, and that creates a cycle of activity. That's why politicians celebrate GDP growth. It's a sign the economy is moving. But GDP growth is not always perfect. A country can have rising GDP and still have serious problems. For example, GDP does not tell you how fairly wealth is distributed. A country can grow while most of the gains go to a small group. GDP also does not directly measure happiness, stress, family life, or health. It doesn't tell you whether people have good schools, safe streets, or enough free time. It also doesn't count unpaid work very well. Things like cooking at home, caring for children, or helping family members usually don't show up in GDP. So GDP is powerful, but it's not the whole story. There's another reason GDP matters to your daily life. It helps explain why prices, wages, and jobs move the way they do. When GDP is rising strongly, businesses often need more workers. That can push wages up. It can also make consumers feel more confident, which increases spending even more. But if GDP slows down, companies may stop hiring. Some may cut jobs, people spend less, and the whole economy can feel weaker. That's why GDP is often used as a signal of economic momentum. Now here's something important. You might hear people say, the economy is growing, but your own life still feels expensive. That can happen because GDP growth does not automatically mean everyone is getting richer in a way they feel. If inflation is high, prices can rise faster than your paycheck, so even if GDP is growing, your real purchasing power might not feel better. This is why GDP and inflation are often discussed together. One tells us how much the economy is producing. The other tells us how much prices are changing. And when you combine GDP, inflation, and jobs data, you get a much clearer picture of what the economy is actually doing. Let's also clear up a common confusion. People sometimes think GDP is the same as total cash in the country. It's not. It's a measure of production, not money supply. And it's not the same as government revenue either. It's basically a scoreboard for economic activity. If the scoreboard is moving up steadily, that usually means businesses are active, consumers are buying, and the economy has momentum. If it stalls or drops, that's a warning sign. So what should you remember? GDP is the total value of what a country produces. It comes from consumers, businesses, government spending, and trade. It helps us understand whether the economy is expanding or slowing down. And it affects real life through jobs, wages, prices, and opportunity. But GDP is not everything. It does not measure fairness, happiness, or quality of life by itself. So the next time you hear someone say, GDP is up, don't tune out. That number is one of the best clues we have for understanding the health of the economy and your place inside it. Now, understanding GDP helps you make sense of the economy, and making sense of the economy helps you make better decisions about money. But there's another number that affects your wallet even more directly. Something that can help you get better loans, lower interest rates, and build real wealth. It's your credit rating. Your credit score tells banks and lenders whether you're trustworthy with money. And that single number can determine whether you get approved for a loan, what interest rate you pay, and how much money is available to you. So next time, we're diving deep into how credit scores work, why they matter, and how to protect yours. Thanks for watching Broke No More. If this helped, hit subscribe. We're breaking down the financial world, one concept at a time. Stay curious, stay solvent,